as least likely as I would be to ride a motorcycle, I'm more least likely to have a YouTube channel about riding a motorcycle. So this is such an anomaly for me that I can't help but share about it. Well, I'm not sure how it's going to come out today because it's super windy here today at the beach, but I figured I would still do my walk and talk because it is the most creative time is when you're walking the beach. And I figured I'd share some thoughts, and my husband does his running and his exercises. Hopefully we don't get caught in some rain because I will turn it off if it's going to be pouring. But so far, this is what the sky we're walking into looks like. We'll see. But today I wanted to share a little about my channel and why I'm creating a channel being such a novice rider. I'm not this experienced rider who's out traveling the world, all these different exotic places, by myself with a tent and a sleeping bag and roughing it. That's not me. I think those are great channels and I love watching them. But I'm not creating a channel because it's about me. I'm creating a channel because it's about you. If you're anything like me, you either didn't want to get on a motorcycle, never had a thought to get on a motorcycle, and viewed motorcycles as this mysterious, dangerous, mechanical beast that people die on. So the thought that I would ever become a motorcycle operator, that I would ride a motorcycle myself, is just beyond my wildest imagination. I mean, really, if you grew up with motorcycles being taboo, why at 60 would you start riding one? I don't know. I can't really answer that question. But what I can say is that I'm super glad that I started riding one. They're the most amazing machine in the world, I think, just for a single operator, you know, like that kind of a machine, a vehicle. I did have an experience at Animal Kingdom on the Pandora ride. I think it's called the Passage of Flight or something like that. The Avatar ride, not the, what is it? Is it? Yeah, Avatar? Is that the movie? God. Something about that. I'm terrible at that stuff. But anyway, it is a ride where you get on, it's like 3D. You wear these 3D glasses and you ride on this motorcycle-like contraption. It's supposed to be the Banshee, you know, the dragon that's in the movie that they ride. And you get on it and you take it through this little, I don't even know how long the ride is, 4 or 5 minutes. It's the most amazing thing you ever imagined. It's my favorite ride in the whole world. And after riding it, I mean, I've been on it a number of times. I've waited in line 4 or 5, 6 hours to go on this ride. And I've done it back to back. So like wait in line, get off, get on, wait in line, get off, get on, use a fast pass, go for a quick one, and then wait in line. So you can ride it about 3 or 4 times in a day if you spend the whole day waiting in line, getting fast pass, and then doing it. But anyway, I'm so addicted to this ride that I was like, I've got to get one of these. I want to get one of these and put it in my house and have all different 3D experiences that I can ride to. This is just one experience that it takes you through on the ride at Animal Kingdom. I just love it. So what I would do is say, I need a Banshee. I need one of those Banshees. Never thinking that riding a motorcycle is very similar. And the way it's similar is you get the air in your face, you get the smells, you get the weather, you get all the elements of nature, like firsthand. You're a full participant in it. It's also exhilarating and exciting. And because you have to take 100% responsibility while you're riding on a motorcycle, you have to pay 100% attention. You need to be fully present, mindful, and aware when you're riding. Not like on the Banshee, you can just ride it and enjoy the ride. But when you're on a motorcycle, there's taking on this additional level of responsibility while you ride your Banshee. And it didn't occur to me that it would be the same as riding a motorcycle until I got on one. And I have to say, it was not, when I first got on my motorcycle, it was very scary. So I was not feeling like a Banshee and adventurous. I was feeling terrified and wondering how I was going to master this thing so that I could ride it on the road and be safe. And my family didn't have to worry about me. The reason this channel is because I actually found a way to fear my motorcycle less and enjoy the experience of riding more. And that can happen for you. And that's what I want my channel to be about. That's what I want to share on my channel, is how can we help you overcome your fear and anxiety and not be afraid of your bike, be less fearful of your bike, and enjoy that experience all the more. Now, I'm not saying that people don't enjoy the experience of riding. Obviously, people enjoy the experience of riding at the risk of their life because they don't get trained. They just hop on it and go. So if you're that person, no problem. I'm super excited for you because you're riding a motorcycle. But if you're anything like me, you're not as much of a risk taker. And I wanted to be certain that I could literally handle my motorcycle should anything unexpected happen on the road. And I wanted to be able to handle it with grace and poise and confidence and certainty. So I guess if you're one of those people that needs certainty, my channel is for you. I needed certainty on a motorcycle. And how did I get that certainty? I focused on proper techniques in a parking lot until I had them into my muscle memory. So for me, that was about 1,000 miles in the parking lot, just to give you a sense for how committed I was to having these into muscle memory, not just practicing them and checking a box and saying, yes, I got my endorsement and I'm safe to ride on the road because somebody gave me a piece of paper that said so. I wanted to be certain in my soul that I was going to be confident and be able to manage my motorcycle with skill. So how do you do that? Well, are you that type of person that if you want to be good at something, you go out and you find somebody who's already good at it and you model them and you study them and you know everything that they do and then you do what they do? That's what I did. So when my husband introduced me to these motorcycling channels, he was looking out for my best interest. He also knows that I'm the type of person that needs certainty and that I'm not going to get on a motorcycle unless I was going to be safe. So he wasn't fearful of me learning to ride a motorcycle, as you might be if your 60-year-old wife decides she wants to ride a motorcycle and you've been riding for 40 years and you're thinking, oh my God, how is she ever going to catch up to me? How is she ever going to be competent on a motorcycle? I've been riding for 40 years. I don't even know the first thing about telling her how to be safe. She doesn't know how to turn the dang thing on. How do I break it down into these smallest components and explain them one by one? And it's my wife, so obviously there's a relationship dynamic to it. So he's looking on YouTube for these different motorcycle courses. And of course, what comes up, ride like a pro. Who doesn't want to ride their motorcycle like a pro? And again, I don't I don't want to ride a motorcycle to become a police officer and do rodeos and any competitions for the sake of doing a competition and winning a trophy or being the best at something. I would only want to get that good so it made me safer, it made my family worry less, and it made me have more certainty on the road. So there was a channel called Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, and that title really resonated with me. Be the boss of your motorcycle. Who doesn't want to be the boss of anything, right? But who doesn't want to be the boss of their motorcycle? That spoke to me in a big way. Morning. So I was like, man, I'm going to be the boss of my motorcycle. So how do I do that? I started watching the channel, and there's a playlist called Practice Sessions. And what the host, Robert Simmons, does, now he's a retired highway patrol officer, lieutenant from New York City. So he's a motorcycle patrol officer. So you know he's got skills, New York City. He can ride a motorcycle, like super impressive. And he's got a channel that speaks to me in my soul, because he's not going, look at me, how great am I? What he's doing is he's going, I have these skills, and people who are looking to learn something get on YouTube and they look it up, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And so he's like, hey, I have a skill. Let me give back to YouTube and all the people that give to me, because I look up on YouTube whatever I need to do. Let me throw my hat in the ring and I'll put what I know out there. How can you not love a guy like that? He says, there's probably zillions of people who would love to know how to have more confidence on their motorcycle. So I'm going to bring that to them. I'm like, you're speaking my language. So I watched the sessions, and what the sessions are is participants, riders who want to learn these skills, slow speed motorcycle officer skills, right? So all that cool stuff that motorcycle officers do just to get around the city and in tight spots and move around, weaving in and out on their big motorcycles. He's teaching that to people who just go up there and want to practice with him. I'm like, I want to eventually go up there and practice with him too. I want to get more coaching in person from Robert. But for now, I don't even barely know how to get my bike moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play in the parking lot for a little while until I can become a little bit just a little bit more secure, getting this thing moving and riding it around and stopping it and turning it. Not even switching through the gears yet, right? I'm just basic. And while I was watching the different exercises that he does with his participants in his practice sessions, he does the same ones every single practice session. There's like 9 exercises, and he does them in a specific order, and they're progressive. So doing number 1, get that down, do number 2, get that down, do number 3, get that down, and you move along these exercises. And he's got a step-by-step process for literally everything on your motorcycle to get it to go and to get it to stop and to turn it and all that. So like there's steps. And I'm one of those people that loves process, loves steps, and loves to be shown exactly what to do so that I can replicate it. And literally, I will replicate something or practice at replicating something over and over and over and over and over and over until I have it down. Because I'm just that type of, I would say, compulsive person to be safe. Now, I'm not a worrywart, or I'm not a fraidy cat. Like, I'm not afraid of anything. Like, I've done some amazing things. I do downhill skiing, and I played beach volleyball, and I've ridden not dirt bikes. What do we ride? Those quads, the 4-wheel ride things through the dirt roads, and all the trails in the woods. I've done some pretty badass, fun things that are adventurous. And I'd like to think that I'm an adventurous type person. And I'm sure you like to think you're an adventurous type person, but this motorcycle thing has got me like really stuck in my adventurous self. So I wanted to break through that. And I suspect that because you're on my channel here, you're looking to break through that too. So my suggestion would be to do what I did. And that is simply watch the practice sessions over and over again, film yourself doing them, and literally, use cones, measure the course, and start with just the first few. Don't start with everything, because it's going to take something to get the first couple down, especially if you've never done it before, whether you're a new rider or somebody who's been riding forever. If you've never done this before, it's going to be difficult, I guarantee you. So I'm going to stop here and do my lunges, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Probably talking about measuring the course off so that you can practice the steps. So you're watching the videos and you're learning the nuances of what Robert teaches. And what he does is he goes through the steps of starting and stopping your motorcycle. And in starting your motorcycle, there's 5 steps, and he reviews those. And then when you stop your motorcycle, there's steps that you follow that will help you not only stop your motorcycle, but have it come to a graceful, smooth stop. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about taking off your motorcycle smoothly and stopping it smoothly. So smooth that when you put your foot down, that if there is some gravel or there's anything unsteady on the ground there, and your foot slips a little, your bike won't fall over. So that is what we're talking about. We're not talking about grabbing the front brake and lurching forward and nose of your bike dips. He doesn't even want the slightest little compression in your front forks when you stop the bike. Now that's perfection, right? And if you practice with that level of detail, that you're looking at the finer points in how you operate your motorcycle, your attention to the details and your attention span while you're riding is going to also get fortified. You're going to be practicing being more intentional and more mindful while you're doing the most basic skills on a motorcycle. So much so that it becomes as integrated into your motor skills, so it becomes part of the way you move around on your bike. And I'm like asking myself, you may be asking yourself too, why would I not want that? Why would I not want to operate my motorcycle in that manner? For the life of me, I don't have an answer. Why would I not? I only knew, yes, I'm gonna practice this until I have it down. So back to my 1,000 miles in the parking lot, it might not take you 1,000 miles. It may take you 50 to get all this stuff down. But whatever it takes you, learn it. That's my impetus for this channel, is don't step over it. Take the value that Robert's putting out there and bring it in. Bring it into every maneuver you make on your motorcycle in a tight space or in a parking lot, or on a road where you need to make tight turns, or there's unsteady surfaces. Like, there's so many reasons why having these skills in your toolbox to pull out when they're needed and not go, should I use a wrench? Should I use a screwdriver? Like, what do I do here? It's automatic. Like, that's what you want to do, is practice it till it's automatic and you don't even have to think about it. And the only time you're thinking about it is when you get to do it. Like, oh wow, there's a hairpin turn up a hill with a light and tons of traffic, and I need to manage my bike. Yeah, let me use my skills I know. instead of, oh no, what do I do here? Let me just walk it through with the throttle going and my feet down and the hand on the brake a little bit, and try to get through with the heart beating and the adrenaline pumping, and you're like, whew, okay, got through that. Why would you do that when you don't have to? Let's bring it attitude. So when you're practicing these drills and you have habits already, and I've learned this from watching the people on Robert's channel that have been riding for years and never did slow speed skills. And I learned that from my husband too, and some of the people that come and practice with us. If you've been riding for years, you have a certain way that you do it. And that's what you feel comfortable with. Even if you're anxious when these certain challenging situations on the road come up, it makes you more comfortable to do what you know, even if it's not skilled, and even if it's probably more risky because you could fall and hurt yourself, and mostly because the enjoyment of it isn't there. Like, you're in this situation and you get there and you're like, oh, let me just get through this. Let me just walk my bike through it and get it over with so I can get back to the good stuff. What if this was the good stuff? What if this was the good stuff too? And these things you wanted to do. Doesn't that equate to enhancing your riding experience more? It certainly does for me. So when I was doing my practice sessions at my house, I was brand new and I was learning to ride, and I was watching Robert's channel and I was seeing the techniques he was teaching and the steps he was asking the participants to follow, and I was trying to mimic those. And so my practice sessions started to improve because I started to gain more control over my bike. Now, mind you, I didn't have habits before I started because I was starting from scratch. So the only thing I knew was to do what Robert said on the, like the steps 1 through 5. This is how you start your motorcycle. This is how you stop your motorcycle. So when I was practicing those steps all the time. So I wasn't using other skills to get into the drill and then doing the drill to learn the skill. And then as soon as I was done with the drill, I was going back to my habits. I had no habits. So I was literally reinforcing what he was teaching while I was learning to ride because I had nothing else to reference. For those of you who have been riding for a while, but you still have that anxiety and fear, and you just don't feel like you have complete control of your motorcycle, and although you love it and you want to go riding and you enjoy it tremendously, you still have this little angst inside you that is like, I don't know. And then when you get off, you're like, oh, okay, now the adrenaline's back and I'm excited that I rode. I mean, I get that feeling because I had that when I first started riding. I'd want to go practicing and I'd want to get on my bike. And as soon as I got on it, that fear would come up and it would overtake me. And then I would practice a little and say, okay, let me get off now. And then I'd get off and I'd be like happy I practiced, but I would be like, okay, I'm done. Next time. And what I didn't want to do is ingrain that anxiousness and that fear into my neurology when I practiced. Like I didn't want to build that. So every time I got on the motorcycle, I was building that anxiousness. And I didn't want to have that get into my neurology. I was committed to focusing on using the steps Robert taught every single time and building confidence, building the feeling of being the boss of my motorcycle and building the feeling of high energy and the excitement and the adrenaline that you get from riding, and keeping that and building that into my neurology so I would feel like I want to go practice because I'm feeling more in control of my motorcycle. And it started to work. It started to work so much that I was leveling up my drills a little bit. And I started to like, okay, now that I know how to take off, like Robert teaches, let me try it on an incline. Still in the parking lot, mind you. Let me try it on an incline. Let me go up to the stop sign here with cars. Okay, let me use my blinkers. Let me make sure I'm using my head and eyes before I turn my handlebars. Like all these little things I'm integrating into my parking lot practice. And before I knew it, it wasn't as scary to have cars coming towards me while I was going the opposite direction. And it wasn't making me nervous to have a car behind me while I was at a stop sign, while I was learning how to use my blinkers and turn right. So it started to feel like, okay, I'm in more control, I'm in more control, I'm in more control. And you start feeling that, and it gets into your way of being, and your confidence starts to move up. And I just never believed that if I just rode my bike more around town and got more seat time, that my anxiety would go away eventually. Like so many people say, it's just gonna go away. Well, not if my confidence isn't there. If my confidence isn't there, and every time I do something that is unexpected and I like drop my bike, or I don't know why I had this situation occur on my bike, there's an unknown. And what do unknowns give you? They give you uncertainty. So I was striving for certainty on my bike. I was striving for, I want to be able to handle this when something arises. So if something arose and I didn't know why, then it would leave me with this unknown in the back of my head, and I'd be always thinking, oh, geez, what if that happens again? What if that happens again? Not, I know how to prevent that from happening because I know what to do instead of what I did. And that's what I was learning, what to do instead of what caused the incident. Now, I didn't have any accidents on my bike, thankfully, and I knock on wood and pray every day that I don't. But I mean just a bobble at a light, or look up and a car's coming and drop my bike. Like I was just about to take off, and I wasn't being 100% mindful. And I look up, ready to go, and mind you, right, it's head and eyes first, then it's turn the handlebars, or then it's take the movement. What was I doing? I was moving and turning my head, and I see a car come, and the first instinct is what? Grab the front brake, put your feet down. If the bike's wheel is a little bit turned either way, the bike's going over. Now, if you don't know what to do in place of that, you're always going to be thinking about that every time you pull out of an intersection and go, what if a car's coming right as I go to move? What do I do? Well, here's one thing you could do: practice in a parking lot, so that you're familiar with how do I get going on a turn and then have to reset? How do I get going and then something's not right and I can reset and I don't drop my bike? It's very calm. You see us do that in exercise 4 all the time. Now we're trying to do a left and right turn from a stop, and it's a 90-degree angle turn, and you see us mess it up sometimes. The whole point of the exercise is not to not mess it up or do it perfectly. The point of the exercise is so that while you're doing it, you're reinforcing what to do if it doesn't feel right. What do you do when it doesn't feel right? You've got to be familiar with that, because the chances are you're going to come up against something that doesn't feel right on your motorcycle. And if you haven't practiced it, something unpredictable can happen. And remember, we're striving for certainty. The more things we can have within our control, the more certain we can be. Now, when you're on a motorcycle, right, you are taking 100% of responsibility for everything that happens around you. There's no blamesies on motorcycling, right? It doesn't matter if it's not your fault. You're not going to win, right? And you can't blame a tar snake. You can't blame an oil slick. You can't blame some like crazy thing that happens, another driver not paying attention. What you can blame is you being mindful all the time and watching your rearview mirrors while you're stopped and leaving yourself an out in front of you, having yourself in first gear ready to go, being able to reset yourself when you're taking off. These are all things. When you feel a slight tip on a corner, how do you right the bike up? Hi. These are all the things that build habits, that are good habits, into your riding experience. And that's what we're working on. So I keep going down these bunny holes, and hopefully some of this is usable. When I was starting to integrate Robert's steps into my parking lot practices, I was reinforcing the proper technique that a motorcycle officer would use to start and stop his motorcycle or her motorcycle. And the more I built those skills into my way of using my motorcycle, the more confidence I was building. And I use myself as an example only to impress upon you that if you're feeling the same way I was, that there is a way to overcome it, and it's not more seat time. It's not just do it and you'll get over it eventually. What it is practicing from somebody who's got skills that you want. In my case, it was Robert Simmons from Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. I like his style of teaching, which is he never makes you feel bad because you're terrified. He's encouraging, and he wants people to learn these things so bad that he never, ever, ever makes fun of anyone. He never makes you feel like you're a pussy because you can't do these things. Because some of these people have been riding for 40 years, like my husband. My husband's this big 6'9" guy who's been riding for 40 years. And if he starts doing these exercises and he feels like a pussy, he's not gonna do them, right? Is your husband gonna do these exercises if he feels like uncertain and looks like inept on his motorcycle? No. Who would do that? And that's why I get, like, Robert says there's 98% of riders. Well, here's what Robert says. Robert says that 2% of motorcycle riders use these skills that are integrated with these skills and use them as the way they ride their motorcycle. 2%. That means 98, I'm the math person, that means 98% of people who ride a motorcycle are not using these skills. So if you are one of those people, you don't even notice that riding a motorcycle differently is something that you would want to strive for, because the majority of people ride the way you do. It doesn't make it the right way to ride it, and I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to ride a motorcycle, but I'm saying there is a way to feel more confident and fear your motorcycle less when you have these skills. So it's not right or wrong what you're doing on your motorcycle, but if you want to feel more confident and more certain and understand why your motorcycle behaves a certain way, then I would encourage you to take on learning these skills and becoming part of the 2%. Like, that's my mission. My mission, along with Robert's mission, is to take the 2% and make that the 98%. Imagine if 98% of riders rode with those level of skills, how fewer accidents there would be, how less worried people who don't ride motorcycles about their family members and friends that ride motorcycles would be. Imagine how many more motorcyclists there would be. There'd be less cars on the road. There'd be more of your friends who wanted to ride a motorcycle. Like people who would never think of riding a motorcycle would be riding a motorcycle and being excited about it and being safe. That's what's exciting to me. And that's why I created this channel. Because if it's exciting for me as a non-rider to be this excited that I'd actually want to get in front of people and share about it and encourage you to look into it, right? How could that be? As least likely as I would be to ride a motorcycle, I'm more least likely to have a YouTube channel about riding a motorcycle. So this is such an anomaly for me that I can't help but share about it. And I don't want this channel to be about how I did something. I want this channel to be about how you can do something, about how you can take this path and make it your path with learning skills that very few motorcyclists have, but joining the community of bringing that 2% up to 3% and 4% and 5%. And before you know it, it'll be the way that everybody rides a motorcycle. And then less people will be saying, I had to lay her down. I wrecked my motorcycle. I did this, I did that. I broke my foot. I banged up my motorcycle. I totaled my motorcycle. So we're signing off. So let's practice with purpose so we can ride with confidence.